Hey guys, welcome to the Color Me Mike podcast. So just a quick disclaimer up here at the top. Anything said during this podcast only reflects on me and or the guest. Sonity has nothing to do at all with anything that's being said here. Sonity is just a cool boba milk tea shop in Fremont, California that is kind enough to let us record the podcast here at their shop and kind enough to hook us up with some boba milk tea drinks. So everybody just chill and enjoy the episode. All right, so you just want to keep this about a fist away from your mouth right there. You can go ahead and pull yourself forward a little bit. That way you don't get out of the shot.
There we are.
There you go. It's a little bit forward. Don't worry, man. There's a good buffer between us.
I'm trying to keep this thing out of my mouth.
Oh, do you feel the urge to just put it over?
Oh, yeah, I got oral fixation. Just
Dude, thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me, man.
You know what I find myself thinking about the last few days? It's just the last time I saw you over at the huddle. And you and Alex Torres, for people listening, you guys were just fucking with this coaster just to see like the bottle would fit perfectly in this circle because I was standing over there. You guys are going at it for a good minute. And I was just like, what the fuck are you two doing?
We're just two easily amused morons, dude, to be honest with you. Like, it was the perfect circular shape and it fit the bottom of like my drink and then his drink. It was like,
and then you guys took my thermoflask and you're like putting on there. So what the fuck are you guys doing?
We were just two monkeys putting, circles in round holes.
Oh, I like that though. That made me laugh. I was just looking at you too. It's like, I mean, how long have you guys been? Because you guys started a show recently together, right?
Yeah. So
have you guys always been friends before comedy, or?
We became friends. He was doing shows at Woodham's and he was like working like his security job, and he would come over on his lunch breaks. And then, he would...
You like that background?
Dude, that's great.
It's like we're at an airport. They could announce we're at a Chinese airport.
I just feel like I'm at home and the TV's on in the background. I'm like, Mom, stop! Friend's over.
So you said he would come over during lunch where?
To Woodham's.
Okay.
Oh, I don't think the story wants to get told.
Did you work at Woodham's?
No. So he'd come over to Woodham's during Pete's mic. So he would do like the 1 or 2 spot. And then he would go he'd have a beer and he'd go back to his security job.
Oh, okay.
And then he'd just keep doing that. And then... he would leave, but for a while, that's what he would do. And then we started hanging out and talking at Sedini's, which was this other room that Pete Munoz was running on Sunday nights in Redwood City for a while.
Is that still going on?
No, that's been gone since the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
But that was a fun room too. That was just a room 4 or 5 people. Be me, Derek the Destroyer, Detox, Alex, and sometimes Jeff Applebaum or Ed Rubin would show up.
Uh-huh.
So Pete would just let you go for 20 minutes to half hours as long as you could.
So you can really feel out a lot of your bits then. I mean,
you could discover a lot of things, dude, how to improvise or just riff and just...
Were there actual people in the audience though?
There were 3 or 4 people and the bartender. And they were listening. If you said anything funny that would amuse them,
so you get a fairly good gauge and if something has potential or not.
Oh yeah, but you use jokes you do at a show and just they would not have any effect on. You're just all right. So you're just trying to riff in the moment, and that usually would work. And then a lot of times, what I'd be able to do there would help me write or flesh out other things, or just get an idea for direction to head in writing wise. But yeah, so Alex and I would actually hang out that mic. We drink, or he would drink. I don't drink anymore. And then I'd smoke. We just hang out and shoot the shit. And then yeah, we became friends that way and just hitting mics together. And then this last year or so, I've gotten back into doing stand up as I stopped during the pandemic. We would just ride together from everywhere to do spots. So yeah, and I just hang out, and now we do a show at Branham Lounge on the 4th Sunday of the month. So
what got you guys, what made you guys want to do your own show? Because, it's a responsibility. It's a lot of admin work. There's a lot of work that goes behind it, especially if you wanted to be successful, and you guys are putting that effort in.
Yeah, well, a lot of it came from just looking at the scene kind of, and especially in the South Bay, there's not a whole lot of showcases. There are a few people who run them, and then just trying to get more opportunities out there for everybody in the scene, because there's a lot of people in the scene and fewer shows to do or potentially be on, so it's just trying to increase that. And then one of the things about San Jose is also there's a big city with stuff to do or not a whole lot to do, and sometimes the problem is getting the word out of the mouth. There is stuff to do and places to go do it. So that's one of the things we wanted to do as well, have people place for people to go and do and practice routine their bits and get better at it and do shows actually, but also give people things to do as well. And right now I'm looking for another room for Alex and I to run together, but right now he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting on just doing meetup groups and then Facebook stuff. So like he's running with that thing pretty well. So I'm just gonna try and like supplement him where I can by finding another room and just having us work more and just figure out other things like production wise, you know.
You guys are connected at the hip at this point. It sounds like.
Yeah,
huh?
dude, we joke that we're a comedy marriage. Like, like for a while, like I think people would assume that I was the lady in the relationship, but it's like the more Alex and I talk, it's like the more feminine he actually is about this thing. Like, there was one time we were getting to like we had a bit of a like discussion, and like he had this idea that he never communicated to me, and he was upset that I wasn't on the same page as him. I'm like, dude, I'm not your fucking boyfriend, man. Like, I can't read your mind.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I know when the last time we saw you guys at the huddle, you guys were co-hosting, and you guys were trying to do your Abbott and Costello
Yeah, I was
thing.
gonna talk about that too. Yeah,
no, you guys, because it was clearly because I mean, you guys were just trying to set each other up for your those bits, and that's tough.
Yeah.
Because you guys have very different bits, and you try to make that into like a natural conversation. Like it's hard not to make it obvious, you know. But so that's the way you guys want to roll though with your co-hosting. You don't want to just like, you know, riff on each other. You want to try to set up the bits.
I think it's a bit of that. It's both, to be honest with you. Like figuring out like how we can like say each other's jokes up independently and like for punchlines and tags, but also like figuring out the riffing stuff. Because like we bullshit so much in the car together, and like a lot of that, but it's trying to figure out like how we can bring that to like an actual show. So like that's just gonna take time, you know, with like more effort, more energy, and just running through the kinks and just doing more sets together like that.
Like, hey Jacob, what do you think about Reno? Oh, funny you bring that up.
Yeah, it's a whole joke. If you've seen my set, it's like that's been a staple for 3 or 4 years at this point. I feel like.
That's kind of like the crazy nature about it, right? Because even now when people are putting up specials more often than back in the day, they're still doing that set for like 2.5, 3 years before they ever turn it into a special, right? People don't realize like, no, you really do the same stuff for years to really hammer it in and like tone it and make it nice and tight before moving on. And I think it's kind of crazy to think about it that way, right? Like you might still be doing the same joke 3 years from now, but it's so much better than when it started. You know?
Yeah, I'm just gonna start having to think like when I should get these jokes birthday presents of their own. You know?
Yeah. What's the oldest joke that you're still doing?
I think it's probably either that Reno joke or
It's a good joke, though.
it's a joke I have about grad school, and then the joke that I lead with, which is the Steve Buscemi thing.
But you know what? I have to say, like up close and personal, the Steve Buscemi thing kind of disappears. You're better looking than him.
You know, I just keep getting that like all the time. When I had long hair, I met this dude. I was at a restaurant I worked at. He was like, "You look like Edward Scissorhands." I was like, "Thanks, dude. That's what I want to hear."
Just randomly, right?
like shitty Johnny Depp, just pale and like feeble. Just
Edward says, "Hey, it's a dope movie. At least it was a good movie."
yeah, Winona Ryder's a babe, so that works out, right?
You know what's crazy about Winona Ryder? I didn't realize she was a babe until much later on. Like, because when she first popped on the scene, you know, with like Beetlejuice and all that very much wasn't her thing. She wasn't being cast because she was beautiful. You know, it's just only she's gotten older. It's like, oh yeah, she's gorgeous.
Hey, to be honest with you, I thought I was like in third grade. I saw Mr. Deeds, and she was the co-lead in that.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, damn, she can get it.
No,
I was the 8 or 9 year old me.
No, but because I'm old, I'm 41, dude. So by that time, she was already like it was already established that she's a beautiful woman.
Okay.
No, but like when she was really first starting, like popping on the scene, like that definitely wasn't her type. You know, you didn't cast her as like the beautiful girl, but yeah, she's almost angelic in the way that like in her prime. Oh my God, you know, that's like, yeah, I know I was just talking about fucking Howard with Michael before, you know, here we go. I'm really putting out the kind of guy about there. But hey, she's a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Okay, if that matters to you.
No, it does matter for sure. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I mean, here's the thing: like, you can't be hella superficial, but like, you gotta at least think the person you're with or the people you like are attractive. Otherwise, it's never gonna fucking pan out. You know?
But you know, I feel like, let me know what you think. I feel like women are a lot more forgiving when it comes to looks than men are.
For sure. There's a reason why there's always like the trope of the slubby dude with the hot chick on TV, dude. I think some women just understand like that's not me speaking for women. Obviously, I'm an idiot. I bungled so many relationships, but it's like. No, I mean, there's more give and take in some ways. I mean, I haven't managed to figure it out yet.
I don't know, it just always amazes me. They're like, wow, they can really look past it. You know, when they love someone, they really love someone. I was like, I remember, like during my 20s, I'm really gonna lose the female audience. Not that this ever
Well,
had
you
a
ever
female
have- yeah,
audience.
I was saying, you ever have them?
No, it's pretty much just the local comics who listen. I mean, if you had to say like, in terms of the Bay Area comics, what percentage of them are female? What do you think?
Under 10.
You think is it
10
that,
or under?
Is it that low?
I mean, I feel like here's the thing, like I just feel like I keep seeing the same like female comics over again, usually, or the same places, you know. And like, I mean, I go to a lot of different rooms, you know, like I'm in Santa Cruz or like
Yeah, that's true. You
or
go
like
all over.
go to East Bay and everything else. I feel like, well, it's also because the scene too, like, you know, it's kind of like it's big, but it's not at the same time, you know. So I feel like maybe there are more out there than I'm seeing, you know. But you know, I see a lot of like I feel like I'm seeing the same ones, and usually they're funny people, like, you know, like Jackie Pearl or something like that, you know. Like there are a lot of like funny comics out there, you know, like. Who else could I put on that list of people? You know, like Adriana McCain, she's a great one. You know, I've known her for a while. Like, there are a lot of like funny, like female comics.
Yeah, but yeah, is it that low? I'm trying to think, like, because I used to go all over the place. Yeah, I mean, things changed when the gas prices really went up. But I'm trying to think, any like open mic scene, how many girls would be on that? You might be right, man.
Dude,
it
like,
might
on
be
that
10%
list, like,
of
it's
the
like
list.
it's usually like 3 or like 4 chicks, you know, and like
Tops,
you know,
yeah,
and like there's some shows
15
like
to 20 comics.
like,
Yeah.
like shout out to Melanie Calabrese. She runs a room over Britannia Arms in Cupertino, and like she's a good job of like getting like an all female comic like show once a month there. Like there's like 4 or 5 of them, you know, and like other things, and like I think there's a cougar show that happens in Walnut Creek.
Yeah.
You know, so like they're out there, you know, but it's just like I feel like I keep seeing the same names, you know. So like maybe it's us. We need to do some work on ourselves. Some introspection here.
Well, you and Alex have a show now. And you're looking to do another
Yeah.
one, so maybe you guys can balance that out.
Well, he has a girlfriend, and I'm perpetually single, so I don't know how much work we can actually do.
I think that was his girlfriend at the huddle last time
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
right? Yeah. She's a good looking girl. I'm glad I think I mentioned it during my set. I'm glad I didn't go any further. That I know that's Alex's girl. You know, it's like,
Yeah, she's cool. I actually was there when like they like got together and met. That's how I attached to him, Alex. Because like they were friends for a few years back, and like I guess like they had met at a show that he was on for Cinco de Mayo with me and Dave, and like she happened to be there, and I was there. I happened to witness the rekindling of like or whatever they had going on.
oh my god, you really are attached to the hip together. Man. But I feel like it's cool to find someone that you can fuck with like that. You know, that's basically a brother in arms or a sister in arms. It's good to have those relationships.
Yeah.
Like that, you know. That honestly, because you know, with my experience living overseas on my own, I discovered, and of course the blender's gonna turn on while I'm trying to make this interesting. No, but for me, I discovered what really makes your life complete. It's not necessarily having a significant other. It's really about having, like, you know, some true friends around you. That's really what makes like life rich.
Oh yeah,
more than
agree with you
anything.
more. Good company, dude. That's the secret of life.
Yeah. No, that's for me anyway. I really found that. I mean, obviously, it's great to have to be with someone that you love and that you truly fully trust. But having like some high quality friends, it doesn't have to be too many. It could be 2 or 3. You know, that really makes your life feel a whole lot more complete, man. Because you know what, those friends, they're gonna be with you even if, like, say things don't work out with your girlfriend or, you know, with your wife and all that. Knock on wood. I don't think this is even really wood, so maybe I've just fucked my marriage now if I do that. But yeah, I found that's kind of like one of the keys to having a good life is having, like, you know, true friends like that. And it looks like you found one in Alex.
Yeah, no, I think I've been fortunate in my life to have a lot of good like friends like within stand up and without, and like Alex is definitely like it makes it a lot easier because before like when I was kind of just doing this on my own, like go to like to San Mateo or whatever, like different spots, like just doing the same thing but like on your own. Like one, like it's just like it gets boring when you're in the car like listening to music by yourself or like just alone with your thoughts for so often, nobody like to bullshit with, and it gets like sleepy, especially like later at night, you know. So like it's always cool to have him like there to like talk to you and like bounce ideas off of, like vice versa, you know. So yeah, that definitely makes like it less lonely overall, and like yeah, good friends, dude, that's hard to come by, especially when like you're in the tough spots. You're like need to be like somebody to talk to just to be there for you, you know.
Yeah, and you know, what I found like as I've gotten older, this is becoming the old man talking to a young. How old are you, Jacob?
I'm gonna be 29 next month.
Yeah, you're still. I mean, you're still young, but you're definitely, you know, you're
on my way out for sure.
Yeah. No, that 30. That's a big landmark for most people. You know, you're like in a different category in insurance. You know, at that point, it's Are you looking forward to turning 30? Or is it nothing to you? What is it?
It's kind of like nothing. They think 29 is gonna be another day. But I just hope by the time I'm 30, I'm in a different tax bracket.
Yeah, that's how you know you're getting older. You think about things like that, right?
Oh yeah, dude. I actually had a job where I was able to make money and save for this year,
Okay.
and like because I made so like little money the previous year, government was like, you owe us money now, you son of a bitch. like fuck you guys.
I mean, do you have like where do you want to be by the time you're 30? Did you ever think about those kind of things?
You know, I think like with that, like I really don't have a 5-year plan. Like ideally I would like to be in New York in the next 3 or 4 years, maybe 2. But like by the time I'm 30, it's just probably still around these parts, just figuring things out, like trying to like make more mistakes and learn from them. Like if that makes sense, like comedy wise, like what to do, what not to do, you know? Like even this whole thing with Alex, like running a show, like that's all a learning experience, right? Like as it goes, like whether it's going to be like, for example, our show coming up this next like couple weeks we have at the end of the month here, you know, or like the September show, or like just doing like different sets in between, like trying to figure out like writing wise what works and what doesn't work, you know? Like I think like I figured out, I think I have a good concept of like setup punch for what works for me, but I'm also just trying to keep playing with different aspects of joke telling, like move past setup punch. So hopefully by then I can just be more like conversational, you know, like have elevated or stepped up what I'm doing, you know.
I'll tell you where you impressed me is the very first mic we did there at the Huddle, that very first one, and you went up there. And, you know, and Jeremy Curry complimented both you and me afterwards, right? You went up there and just delivered with confidence, even though there's 2 non-comics in the room, not even paying attention. And even there wasn't even that many comics too, right? It was basically we were delivering to an empty room, but you still went up there and delivered with confidence. And like Jeremy Curry said, you owned, you know, your set, your material. And that takes a lot, man. Because, you know, it's easy to go up there and give it your all when there's a crowd and they're fucking with you, you know, and they're loving it. But when to do that when there's literally no one around, that's where like your soul gets tested at that point, you know, and you pass with flying colors, in my opinion. And
well, I appreciate that, but I think that day I passed. I think there's like been plenty of times, like even that same week or week before, like so like fuck, like you know, like. You know, one thing I could say, like, it comes with time and experience is, like, I think you have those moments where you're just like, yeah, I've been here before and I've done this. Like, you know, kind of like that, you're just like, you can own the room in, like, your moment, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, your set. But, like, for every moment like that, I think I've had 1 or 2 where it's just been like, whoo, I'm ready for my life, man. Let's, you know, we're not all winners, dude. Like, you know, you have those tests and, like, like, sometimes, like, you pass and sometimes you fail. Like, that was one of the times I'm glad I did well, especially, like, with Jeremy. I've seen him, like, just like burn down rooms, and I've seen him like burn down rooms like when I started, like, you know, he's like, yeah, he's like doing like woodums, and he'll come by and like the same scenario you just described, you know, like 3 or 4 people that are actually like, there who aren't comics, and like and like the rest of the people that are just like doing their set or trying to work on it, and then he just goes and he just does what he does, you know, with high energy, and then choice of words that some people might not be fans of, but he doesn't give a shit, you know. So like, yeah, but like I think earlier that week I was like I've had like that moment where I was like, Pete, I'm ready to get off the stage, dude. But you know, yeah, I appreciate that because like it happens, it ebbs and flows, you know.
No, I mean, yeah, that's what is crazy about it, is how ephemeral it is. How like you can be high one moment and you literally you could do a set the next night and be the complete opposite, and you're like, do I even know what the fuck I'm doing? It's like, was that just a fluke last night? You know, what's going on here? I mean, and then hopefully, you know, you get to the point where you've done good enough times where, you know, okay, you know what, I had a bad one last night. Let's just try to deconstruct it. Why did it happen? You know, what can I do to improve? But you have enough in there, like, okay, yeah, I know what I'm doing somewhat. You know, I've done good enough that, like,
oh
okay,
yeah, you learn to let go of some of those, you know. For sure.
I want to ask you. I heard that you used to be a wrestler.
Yeah, I grew up wrestling.
So even before high school, you were one of those guys who, like, your family already had you in like the wrestling
so
leagues
I
and all that.
started like in 7th grade. I used to play baseball before that, and like I couldn't hit very well, but I could field, so I played shortstop.
Okay.
So like I got to a certain point though where like I couldn't hit, and like when I get to the I get to the plate and just be like, I didn't even see that go by. It's like, all right, you guys are getting good at this.
Oh, there's your dick right there. Okay, if you want.
I'll have that in a second. Yeah. It's like, oh, you guys are getting good at this. I'll find something that's, you know, that's better for me.
Oh, you can go into that, but don't worry about it. I can keep talking here. And there's nothing wrong with like a few seconds of dead air. Okay, so you figured out right away that baseball wasn't going to be your thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I loved it, dude. Like one of my favorite moments, like growing up as a kid, was watching the Red Sox play the Yankees in that '04 World Series.
Yeah.
And ALCS would play the Yankees, and when they played the Cardinals in the World Series, that was like one of like the pivotal moments of like my childhood, like sports wise. It's like seeing that comeback, then make MLB history, and like
yeah. I mean, I remember Because I used, like, growing up, baseball was actually my first sport.
Okay.
I fell in love with the Bash Brothers. Jose Canseco was
Hell
my
yeah,
guy.
let's go A's.
Yeah, and then I fucked with all the sports, and then I discovered Michael Jordan in his prime, and that was it. Everything else went by the wayside, and I was basketball all day. But I remember I would still keep up with Sports Center, and that Boston comeback when they finally broke that curse, the Babe Ruth curse. That was just so fucking unexpected. They were down 0-3, right?
Yeah, they were the first team to do it. Like I remember watching that entire series at my aunt's house, and like my uncle was throwing the game because he was a huge sports guy, and like I remember we were just always there at my aunt's house, so we just watched. I remember watching all of those games, and just like Kurt Schilling and the Red Sox and everything. Like it was.
Yeah, that's
like
that's
when you're
amazing.
a kid. Like I was like 9 or 10 when that happened. Dude, when you're a kid and like you watch like sports history on such like a grand level just play out, and like this whole like mythical curse get shattered, like it leaves an impact on you. Like I'm an A's fan, like, but I always have an affinity for the Sox just because of that moment in my childhood. Where it's like, you know.
So you gave up baseball and then wrestling. Did you take to wrestling right away?
No, I was just like comedy. I was terrible my first year. Just god awful, but just like.
But you stuck with it.
I stuck with it. It's like it's just. Like determination and grit. Like at that point, like I had buck teeth growing up, so I was already like getting into a couple like fights at school or whatnot. And plus, I had a brother that would take things way too far, so I'll just leave it there. So I was kind of already just used to like conflict on a certain level. So I just kept sticking with it, and then by the time I got into like my 8th grade year hit, I had like won league, and I like was like I had like took third in our section or whatever, and then I went to high school, like, as I went to Title I school, like, in East San Jose. So, like, as a kid, I thought my options were probably is either be a mechanic or sell drugs or end up in jail. So I was like...
What school did you go to?
I ended up going to, like, a private school in Mountain View called St. Francis.
Okay.
So I ended up going there for, like, sports and, like, for wrestling, basically.
So I grew up in East San Jose. I went to Mount Pleasant.
Yeah. So I went to Quimby Oak.
Oh, okay.
So
Quimby. I was a Boger kid.
Yeah, so I hung out with all the like the Vietnamese kids that were always trying to gangbang, or like the Mexican ones too. So like those were the people who I was typically like around and like would end up getting into shit with sometimes.
Oh wow, Quimby Oak. That takes me a quick. In junior high, Quimby Oak was our rival for August Boger. Yeah. So I was on the basketball team, and Quimby Oak was always our rival. During my time, we could never get over Quimby Oak. For some reason, they just had our fucking number. Yeah, both years I was on the team there. It was like, that drove us crazy. You're a Quimby Oak kid.
Yeah, I remember them pretty good at basketball when I was there. But yeah, like, you know that area, so like, people who don't know, like, there's like two sides of like the area where like one that's pretty affluent in the hills, and the other private's like just not.
Yeah.
So I was on the side of things where like everyone's just like we don't, like, our parents don't give a shit about anything we do.
Yeah. Do you want a straw for that, or are you gonna drink it like that?
I'll drink it like coffee. It's fine.
Okay, cool. So you're a big coffee guy. You said you take it black.
Yeah.
Wow, man. Like, how the hell? Because it tastes like shit, dude. But you love it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I like my coffee like my just
like
dirt,
your men.
Just black. Yeah, black, dude.
But where did that come from? Like this
I don't like I don't know. Like I've never been really big on like sweets or anything like that, or like I don't know. I just like the coffee black the way it is. I feel like it's stronger that way, or just whatever.
Are you an IPA guy too?
I used to be when I was drinking.
You like the bitterness.
Oh yeah.
Because like black coffee is bitter too.
Yeah. So when I was drinking, I quit drinking about 3 years ago. Yeah, I would drink IPAs. So that's what I like the shittiest tasting drink, I suppose. And I developed a taste for Scotch pretty early too when I was drinking. Like I was 21, I was buying like bottles of like Macallan 12-year.
That's kind of the crazy thing about drinking alcohol, right? Because if we're just purely objective about it, alcohol tastes like shit.
Oh yeah.
Like lemonade, Kool-Aid tastes way better than alcohol. But like, we just convince ourselves to keep drinking it because it gets you fucked up and you eventually learn to like the taste, right? Essentially. But it tastes like shit.
Dude, actually the thing was I like the taste of beer because the problem I had was I couldn't just have one or two. Be like, nah, let's bring the rest of them over here.
So you genuinely liked it right from the get-go?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
That's
I don't know why. I just like I've always had an affinity for like gritty things. Like so when I was drinking pretty heavy, like I would go to for a while I was substitute teaching and work at a restaurant. I coached wrestling at my old high school. And if I didn't have like a day where I was working or doing comedy, I would just like pop into like a Hilton downtown San Jose, and I'd just like, or like even Caravan, if Rachel could attest to this probably. But it's like I would show up and I'd just get a Modelo and a Jameson. I'd be there for a while and I'd just be like, just tap. At the point you don't have to speak to the bartender anymore. You just know what you're gonna get, dude. So I would just get JMOs and Modelos. That was it. That was always the go-to.
Modelo's nice. I like Modelo. I feel like people graduate to Modelo from Corona. So,
yeah.
yeah.
But that's a cheap drink when you're affording that habit. And then like sometimes I feel a little classy and I'd have like a scotch and the cigar and I'd put the cigar in the scotch, dude. You know what I'm saying?
That is classy. Yeah.
It's a very broad spectrum of drinking.
Yeah, it's very classy. You're like, what, 21 at this
I was
point?
like, so I quit drinking when I was about 26. So yeah,
Yeah, wow, that's super classy, dude. Do you still fuck with cigars?
I'll have a cigar.
Yeah?
Yeah. If you ever have a cigar and you want to smoke one, dude, I'm definitely in for it.
You know, I've never tried it because I know you're not supposed to inhale,
no,
right?
that'll
So
make
how
you
the
like.
fuck- yeah.
So you just let it whiff around your mouth, like with the flavor, and then
Uh-huh.
you exhale. You don't inhale, otherwise it really messes with your stomach.
I don't know if I can not inhale.
Dude, I will tell you this. It will fuck you up, man.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of experience with tobacco, like whether it be dip or like cigars.
Uh-huh.
But like cigars will make you feel like after like 20 minutes you'll be cool. I mean, like depending on how big a cigar is and how like fast you smoke it. But that urge to take a dump comes pretty at some point, man,
Yeah.
and like it can be pretty abrupt as well.
Yeah, okay. I'll have to smoke a cigar with you sometime. You'll have to teach me because I don't know how not to inhale. It's like the whole point. I mean, if you're smoking weed is to inhale. So it's like, yeah, just swish it around. Like, I wouldn't even know how to stop it from getting into my lungs and into my body.
Oh yeah, I can show you around, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cigars.
So you just like, how do you like do your best to try to explain? How does that work? You
So what you do is, first of all, you take like the couple of clippers and cutters, and you like cut off a portion of the butt, the cigar.
Yeah.
Right, to open it up so you can inhale
and
it.
if
Right.
you're being classy, you dip it in
Yeah,
your
if
scotch.
you're being classy,
right?
you dip it in the scotch. It would
Yeah.
actually get you, if you're a drinker and you want to be classy, this will get you pretty fucked up because it stays in there, like all the alcohol, so it
Uh-huh.
kind of just like sits and it just like gets absorbed, like in your like,
Wow,
in
that's
like your gums,
interesting.
whatever. And then you keep, you obviously you still have the scotch whatever you're drinking, so you sip on that occasionally, and like the cigar already makes you a little lightheaded, you know.
Yeah, I'm feeling classy just listening to it.
Dude, if we were wearing like black ties and white shirts right now, dude, some
Yeah.
blazers.
Yeah, I feel like James Bond. You're drinking
Oh,
something like that.
yeah.
So you go to the downtown Hilton at the bar looking
Yeah.
for the single women who are there in business.
No, not at all. I just gotta get fucked up.
True alcohol.
I wasn't there
you go.
for. So, don't be wrong. There were a couple of times where like I'd stay at Caravan like way past my set or something like
Uh-huh.
that, and I'd get hammered and I'd hook up with some butterfly.
Yeah, there you go. That's what
Dude,
we're
it
talking
wasn't
about.
anything braggable though. Because like I'd always like come back the following week, and Armando, the bouncer, there would be like, "So why?"
That's not a good sign.
No, not at all. It's not a sign you made a classy decision. Who you're like, you know, who on romantic tryst with.
Oh, if the bartender there is asking you that, oh my god.
Yeah, the bouncer was just like, "I saw you leave with her. Why, dude?"
Hey, I mean, you know, you're young, you're single, you're unattached. I mean, why not? I guess.
Yeah, I think it's also part of a thing too. Is like I've seen like date chicks for like 3 or 4 months at a time, except for like this flight attendant who I dated for a year and a half. Like it's even during the pandemic. But it's like usually like I'm pretty, I don't know, like free flowing with things. You like very like type B in a certain way. Like I just line up a joint, just walking around downtown. That's actually how I plan my vacations too. Like I went to SoCal this
Dude,
last.
that sounds like a great time, honestly.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You can't do that with like a girlfriend because they want an itinerary of shit you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, it depends on the girl. There's some girls are really
Yeah.
like cool. Like my wife's fantastic about that.
well, I think a lot of the girls who I date usually tend to be like type A and like. Yeah. Like I think I talked to Alex about this. Like it's very type A and like structured and like stern.
Mhm.
But I think the word I used with Alex was like bitchy at times.
That's a great bit, actually. That's
Yeah.
a good premise. I like that. But I mean, you're aware that that's your type. I mean, can't you get out of that then, since you're aware that that's who you
Here's
tend
the
to date?
thing, like I think the pitfall with that is like I can't like I don't seem to be attracted to women who don't have like a whole lot going on. Like the last girl I was like involved with, she had like the side business where she would like make jewelry and sell it, and that was her whole entire thing. And she made a pretty good living doing that and like doing speaking engagements too. So she was always like busy. So I need someone like who's like that, because a lot of the chicks who I end up talking to like on Tinder or Bumble or like who I meet, it's always just like, well, yeah, like I sit at home and I watch this, you know, like, oh, you should check out this book or this movie. It's like, dude, it's like, this isn't a personality. Like you have some aspirations. You gotta have something to work for, you know.
Oh wow! I mean, that is very adult. But so is that you just mainly on the apps? Is because like I've been with my wife for 16 years. I don't know about it.
Well, here's
it's like going up to a girl in person. It's just not, is that not even done anymore?
Oh no, I like do that. Like I like talk to like chicks and like I also like have
I
sometimes.
love it that you call them chicks. I'm sure they love that.
Dude, I speak very 80s, 90s colloquially. I say the word rat a lot. Unironically.
Anyway, sorry to
Anyways,
interrupt.
it's like, yeah, they love that, yeah, for sure. Probably why I'm perpetually single too. It's my vocabulary. It's just, can't get out of a night, dude. It's also a thing. It's like a Dan Soder bit, which I agree with. It's like I never thought I'd have textbook stoner vocabulary, and here I am, you know, with the voice and everything.
That's funny.
But no, so I think it's part of it with me is I need someone who's like things to go with. Like I heard this J. Cole line a while back, and it's like I only fuck with hat tricks, bitches with a few goals. So it's like, why don't you have some direction in your life? But like I talk to like girls like at bars, whatever if I can, or like. You know, sometimes I miss this whole for cues like asking for numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like either A too stoned or just oblivious to some things. But like I'm really not in a hurry to like to date anybody at this point. Like I thought I was for a couple months there after my last thing ended, but I was like, nah, I think I'd rather just kind of take the time to like iron it out, meet someone. And for a while, I did go back to doing like boxing and kickboxing classes. That I would like do like a few years beforehand. But there used to be girls there. I went back and was sorely disappointed in that. I was like, that's a good opportunity to try to meet somebody like with a similar or shared interest.
Yeah, but you know, it's always a dangerous idea, you know, to like go out with anyone who's like doing kickboxing classes at the same gym with you, or going out with someone who's in the comedy community, or going basically just shitting where you eat. It's always it's a tough situation, man.
Comedy, I agree with you for sure, but I think a boxing gym I can find a new place.
Yeah.
But it drives more, but you know.
No, yeah, because like to me, like that used to be my world. You know, I was a martial arts guy. I did a lot of Muay Thai kickboxing, and it's hard to find good trainers.
Right.
Yeah, so you know, if I'm at the gym, I'm starting to go, that's a good trainer. It's like that's kind of like my sanctuary. I wouldn't want to fuck with it, you know, take any chances that there's gonna be like I'm bringing this other dynamic into it now.
Right, but it's like with the hope that like you meet somebody with similar interests and it goes naturally, not like with like trying to like forcibly like just like, hey, what's your number? You know.
Well, you did say you were disappointed when you came back and they weren't.
You know, it's because the possibility was there. My dreams were dashed. You know, when I put on my gloves like anybody else, you know, put on my shin pads when I do a kick later on. You know.
Do you still do it?
I haven't had the time to, so like I usually just go on like Wednesdays. That was a day with a boxing and a Muay Thai class were like together. Because every other day I'd hit like Mike. So then at this point I'm probably just gonna have to concede the effort hitting up the guy and just doing one-on-ones. But you know, just wanting to try and do mics and trying to get better. Like I had to sacrifice my Wednesdays of kickboxing and boxing just to go and just do more shows, you know, or try to at least.
So what do you do to keep in shape?
I just lift. And now shadow box and everything else, you know. And
how long do you shadow box for?
A few minutes at a time, you know. And you try to work on combos and footwork. Like one of the big things when I was doing wrestling growing up was like I always like didn't have the fastest shot, but I wanted to or tried to. So one of the things that I learned at a young age, like I learned from a good coach of mine, was like footwork and like shot, like working on that. So like I work on footwork, like figure eights, in and out, just things like that, and then trying to just do like combos, like nothing like too intricate, but like maybe like a 1-1-2 and then like step out and then come back with the 2 or feint a 1 and just trying to do that and like work on parries and still. So I do like maybe like 3 or 4 minutes of like a round if I can, just try to keep it there, and then I do maybe do like 2 or 3 sets of that depending on the day. Sometimes I wake up and just do a couple minutes at a time, you know, but it's like
I dig it, man. I dig how much you're into it, because like martial arts is a big part of my life, you know. I did wushu. The wushu doesn't really count as a martial art in my opinion. It's a performance art, but you know.
I met a guy at a party one time who was doing wushu, and he was very, very adamant that it was still. And I was like, "Hey, man,
no, it's not."
I was like, "Let me shoot a double on you right now." So
yeah. If you can't use it in a fight, it's not a martial art, dude. Yeah. I mean, if I use it in a fight, you might be so impressed that you don't want to fight me anymore. Like, oh, you'll just be clapping. Holy shit, that was impressive. But you're not going to use any of that shit in a fight. It's a performance art, but. Yeah, I did a lot of Filipino martial arts, like the Jason Bourne stuff. I did a lot of Muay Thai.
Did you do Eskrima?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's a lot of the knife fighting, the empty hands. That was a trip, dude. You know, this because the thing is like Filipino martial arts, it's kind of backwards from any other martial art, because usually other martial arts, you build up to weapons training, right? That's kind of like the pinnacle. Whereas in the Filipino martial arts, is the exact opposite. You start with weapons, and then you build up to empty hands, because they're like the weapons techniques, particularly well, depending on the school, but you know the knife fighting methods, you know they transfer to empty hands like very well. But you start with weapons. But anyway, I remember like the kind of the goal is always the what's the most prestigious in like in guys' minds. Oh, I want to learn knife fighting, right? But you know when I got to that point, it was kind of it was weird, because you're essentially just learning how to cut people up.
Right.
And it was a weird feeling, man. And like even you know we're using dulled knives, you know, and we're training, but it just felt so bizarre. Like, dude, this is really what I'm learning to do. Huh? I'm learning how to cut someone's forearm
you
up.
can do some Borgies real quick, dude.
Yeah, so just like, you know, kind of like made me like feel sick in my stomach, kind of like, just dealing with the reality of like, oh, this is what this does. You kind of don't connect it really when you're thinking about it and fantasizing about it.
Oh yeah.
And
Because
then-
everyone's like sees like the movie, like here's the thing, like I like comic books and like comic book characters. Like watching Daredevil recently, right?
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot of that in there, like a lot of it, like this disarmament and like hand to hand stuff and like the knives as well,
Yeah.
and that's like brutal,
Yeah.
It's like imagine having to do that to somebody. That's also the thing too, like people don't explain like or people don't think about when they think about martial arts at times is like, one, like if you think that always keeps people in mind is how like exhaustive it is to be in like a fight. Like if everybody has never like done like a round or two of like sparring, even light sparring, that shit can be exhausting, dude.
Cardio is key. People don't realize it.
Even if you and your partner aren't trying to like knock each other like out, and just go for light touches, like the defense, like trying to parry, anticipate, and everything, and staying light on your feet is
Yeah, well, that's why. I mean, when you said you concentrate on footwork, it's like, ooh, you just went up a notch on my ladder of respect, because it is. It's all about the footwork and knowing how to maneuver around. Yeah, it's people neglect it. Like they don't realize like how like crucial that is. You got great footwork, you got good breathing. I mean, you can be dancing around a person and pin them in the corner there however you want.
That's actually my strategy, dude. Like if I get into like a altercation with somebody around my size, it's like it's going to be footwork around them, maybe like throw a jab, but just if I can like duck under, backpack them. Yeah,
well, that's the thing. Like that's another thing people don't realize is like, if you get into a street fight and you fuck someone up, you can go to jail for that shit.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, it doesn't count as self-defense if at any point you have an opportunity to actually run away or not fight. The only way you can count as self-defense is where you really have no other option, legally speaking.
Yeah.
I know we all have these fantasies in our mind. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be like a fucking action star. My training's gonna kick in. I'm gonna fuck this person up. But you're gonna go to jail, dude.
That's like I'm just gonna backpack you, dude. Like, I'll just like throw one around your neck, but like
that's what I like about wrestling and BJJ. It's like, there are things you can do there to subdue a person, but you can be safe. You're not gonna strike them, but because most people are not gonna know how to grapple at all.
Well, that's also the thing too. Like I think between you and I, like if you and I could probably throw a head kick.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Like if somebody just thinks to go, oh, I'm gonna get in a street fight with some asshole, and they go, oh, I just got hit with a baseball bat in that guy's, which is a guy's leg.
Or what I tell people usually, like who don't have any training, I tell them if you ever get into a street fight and you really have no choice, just throw a leg kick. You'll fuck them up and they'll never see it coming. But I also tell them, but if they check it, you're in fucking trouble.
Oh yeah, they know what they're doing.
Yep. So you need to run.
Maybe a push kick, depending on how athletic you are, dude. That might take the win out of somebody.
Maybe, but I've seen like push kick can be a little bit more telegraphic because most people default to just boxing.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
But you see somebody throw up their hands the first time, it's just like, over here. It's like, you put your chin down, man.
Or that overhand right's covered, right? For most people,
that's like a thing too. Like one shadow box. Like I love watching Canelo fight, so I think he does. He'll lead with a jab, right? And he'll like set the overhand throughout the fight, right? He comes through with it, but every once in a while he'll feint that overhand. It comes in with an uppercut, and that's a real motherfucker.
Canelo's a trip, dude. Not just because he's like a redheaded Mexican, right? That you would never know the dude's Mexican.
Dude, by the way, Canelo means ginger in Spanish.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. His parents just didn't give a fuck.
No, Mexican culture doesn't give a fuck, dude. Like, you call what you look like. It's an old entire like bit, but it's true. Like,
that's hilarious. Oh my god, that's hilarious. I see Mexicans are really just like Filipinos, man.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I had no.
What would you guys call them if he was Filipino?
I mean, Filipinos. Like I have my wife's cousin. His name is Jaundice. You know why?
Is he yellow?
Yeah, exactly. Because when he was a kid, he was like,
does he have liver disease or something?
Yeah, it's like, that's great. You're calling him a disease for the rest of his life now. It's like, actually they pronounce it jaundice, but it's because of jaundice because he was yellow when he was a kid. It's like that's great.
It's like, geez, I'm sorry, your cousin has Hep C.
Yeah, I know. It's like okay, but the fact that the Canelo's parents named him Canelo, that's hilarious.
No, his name's Saul.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Saul.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So Saul Alvarez, but Canelo is the middle name. Yeah.
Oh,
but dude, that's the thing about Mexican culture. Like even that's probably what they call him. Like he's like, like you're fat, they call you gordo.
But like he's just like, man, he's probably the most popular boxer at the moment, isn't he?
Probably. I mean, pound for pound, I think he's like maybe number 2 after that loss he had to B-Ball.
Yeah, that was impressive.
That
was impressive. I saw the highlights on that. That was impressive to see. You know who I really fucked with, but I know he's kind of fallen down a little bit, is Lomachenko.
Oh yeah,
His,
yeah, yeah.
we were talking about footwork. That guy's footwork is out of this world.
He did ballet
dude.
for a number of years. His dad took him out of boxing. He just had to do ballet.
Yeah, Ukrainian dancing, right, for
Yeah,
like
yeah.
4 years to get that footwork, and his footwork's amazing. But he did actually racked up a loss like recently, right? Within the last
Did he?
year, I think so. He seemed invincible for a while. I know, like people were just throwing in the towel because they just couldn't figure him out.
I know. Let's see. Talking about like, see Lomo. He was about the Teofimo fight a few years back, or did he lose it to Lopez? What am I thinking of?
I'm not sure because I don't keep up with boxing as much as I do with MMA. I just like the boxing highlights will pop up on my YouTube feed, and that's how I check it out. And then I just saw Lomachenko, or usually I'll listen to Joe Rogan Experience, and
Right.
then they'll talk about a boxer. I was like, okay, let me check that out.
You should
Then-
check out Morning Combat.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a pretty good podcast.
Yeah.
They do like MMA and boxing by
okay.
Showtime. It's free on YouTube, but like they're pretty good. They know their shit, and like they actually won an award for like best sports podcast last year.
Yeah, I mean it's been harder for me to fuck with boxing ever since MMA came around. It's just like
Oh no! Right now's a good time to be back into boxing.
Yeah?
Right now's a good time. George Kambosos, he just defeated Devin Haney in Australia to become the unified champion in his division,
Okay.
and they're gonna run that back.
all right, so it's a lot of excitement.
So there's a lot of
fighters
excitement now.
out
Right now we're in a place where like boxers actually want to go ahead and go for legacy and
Uh-huh.
fight for unifying titles, as opposed to just like
Alright.
back in the day where it was like back in the time of like Leonard and Hearns and all of them were like you just stay clear of Roberto Duran, so I keep my like WEBC title like belt, whatever. But yeah, boxing right now it's a good time. It's renting a resurgence, and like especially women's boxing too. Like there was a banger,
Really?
yeah, Madison
Wow.
Square Garden like a few months ago. I forget the name of the fighters, which is a disservice to them because they put on a hell of a fight, dude. It was all blood and guts.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I will say about like, there's that stereotype that women's sports isn't as exciting as men's, and it's definitely true for the WNBA.
I watched WNBA last week. It was on the TV.
Yeah.
When the bars was doing stand up, I was like, I am not interested in whatsoever.
Yeah, I know, but like I would say, like MMA is like women's MMA to me is just as exciting as
Oh,
men's
even
MMA.
more exciting sometimes.
Yeah.
Like that Lee fight with Johanna. That was
Ooh.
one of the greatest fights ever. And even
Dude, the way
most
she
re-
came out of that fight, Joanna looking like an alien, like
Oh,
her
yeah.
head swelled up so much.
that's saying a lot about how much damage she took because she's a pretty lady outside of the ring too, or
That's
outside
what
that.
I hear, man. But I scoped out her Instagram. I don't know. She just doesn't do for me. You know who does it for me in women's MMA? Valentina Shevchenko.
Oh, she's a goddess, yeah.
Oh, my
I give it all. I
God.
throw it all away for Valentina in a
Yeah.
heartbeat.
I know, right?
Maybe she's not even into blonde chicks either.
I don't have to point a gun at your head for that one. Yeah,
Hell no,
she's-
dude. She probably has she's an armory at home.
Yeah, I know. I mean, she's got like everything going for her. Badass fighter. She's into good. She's hot.
Yeah.
She's got the whole Russian thing going
And
on.
she speaks like 4 languages.
Yeah, it's like then she does her like traditional dance.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, oh, so she's adorable still, and she's still kick ass. It's like, oh my god, she is so hot. I don't know why I'm talking about this. Oh my god, it's not good. What I talked about in the previous podcast with Michael George and Alan Hughes is like, it's just sounding like, hey, I want to go fuck other girls. So it's like. Oh man, but we're guys. That's always like I told me. It's always a part of our brain. It's just you make better choices as you grow up.
You
know,
hope.
No, I mean the idea. I mean it depends on the kind of guy, right? If you're the kind of guy who, doesn't want to like be in a relationship or is always going to be single, then yeah, there's more power to you. But like for me personally, when I turned 26, it became clear to me that I was looking for something more stable at that point. And like I said, like the urge, to be with other women, I would say it doesn't go away. It kind of ebbs and flows. It's like a roller coaster. You have your peaks and valleys.
Oh yeah.
But you just for me, the trade-off of being in a stable relationship is just way better than, fucking around. But that doesn't mean, the urges aren't there. It's just I just make a better choice. In my opinion, that's a better choice.
Yeah, well, it's like it comes with like growing up and like figuring out like where your boundaries lie and like having self-control and everything else. Like.
Well, what helps a lot with self-control, honestly, is just masturbation, dude. It's like, that'll prevent you from making a lot of bad choices, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it honestly does.
Oh, post-nut clarity does wonders for the
Yeah,
soul,
that's crazy how that works out, right? I was like, I wonder what it is about that. But I remember, like, in my 20s, there were times where, I wanted to just do, like, booty calls with certain girls that I know would be down for it. But I was like, I know, I really shouldn't, it's not... it's not good for me. It's just gonna be more emotional drama. You just go bust one out, and then it's like, oh yeah, I already caught. There you go. That's perfect.
You know what's funny is like about a year ago, I for the first time in my life resisted that urge. Like,
really? Congratulations!
I was in the game and everything, but it was just, like this girl was texting me. And I was like not really interested in like on any sort of level. Like last time that we hooked up, I did not have like a fond like memory of it, and I was just like certain like you know, like getting that out's pretty good. You know, but I was just like, there's a lot of baggage that might come with this, and like I think a year prior to that, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, let's do this. You know?
Yeah, you live in the moment. That thing's really thinking for you at a certain point. Well,
you know, if I had not been seeing somebody the year prior, I have to clarify that, right? I wasn't in a relationship before it. But like, had I not been seeing somebody and like that was presented itself, I've been like, oh yeah, for sure, you know. But like,
I mean, that's you know, I think as you know, as you progress as a comic and you start going out on the road, that's definitely something you're gonna have to have control over, because you know, like banging waitresses it's not a good idea. You know, you got to keep it professional, but those waitresses are the ones that's going to be like up front and center and be ready to go.
Yeah, you have to go back to the Chuckle Hut in Indianapolis at some point. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think you'd be able to resist?
You know, I think I can try. I can separate that as best I can. You know, dude. Yeah. Here's the thing, like, I'm pretty impulsive.
Yeah. So maybe
like,
not.
Maybe not. You know, I like to think that sometimes my better angels will get the best of me. You know, but a lot of the time it's like, this would be kind of a cool story later on.
Yeah.
All right, fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, you're 29, dude. That's like, you know, that's like even early 30s. That's what it's for. Yeah.
Like part of the problem I had also when I was like drinking, like usually I couldn't like just have one or two. It was like, who's telling me I can't have another? You know, like there's nobody there.
Yeah,
it's all in here. So it's like.
Yeah, fuck that voice in my head. Oh,
screw you, conscience. I'm gonna get another Modelo and Jameson.
So, I mean, then what happened? Why'd you stop drinking?
I just was realized, so like, you like done martial arts and like you watch like boxing and MMA, right? So you know what the term being like chinny, you know?
Yeah.
The older you get, like once that button's been hit once, like the chinnier you get.
Yeah.
So like part of the reason was like I would just start drinking and like the less I drink, the easier I'd black out. Mm-hmm. So I was starting to black out like pretty easy. I'm like, that's not a good sign, you know? So that's one reason. Second reason was sometimes I wake up and I'm like, who the fuck did I text or like call or like having to check like my Facebook or like my Twitter, like my Instagram, being like, all right. So like it's always like, it's hard trying to solve a crime or like being the criminal, trying to figure out what crime I committed the night before previously. Being my own detective.
Yeah.
And then third was like, I started to become more like an asshole people like I cared about, and like it started to kind of impact relationships in a certain way. So I was like, all right, like, that was starting to become a thing too. So like part of the realization I had also was like alcoholism like kind of runs my family, you know. I was thinking like some of the trends of like my brother, like my dad, or like other people who I've known like that like really done some stupid shit while drinking, and like thankfully I had never gotten to a point that like they had gotten to, but it was also just like, yeah, like, I need to like just because I went to college or like did things differently than some of these people, it doesn't mean I'm like different than them in certain ways, you know.
Oh, that's very like, man, you very just like Michael George, like Ryan Holler. You're very self-aware at a young age.
Appreciate that. I mean, I was like, I feel like you have to, because like there's so many motherfuckers out here running around, no idea what they want or what they do, like what to do, and like part of the reason like my last relationship, like I have this flight in like a year and a half didn't work out, is because she had no idea what she usually wanted to do with her life, and like for me, I knew what I wanted to do like professionally, career-wise, and like comedy-wise. So like it was kind of like just. Like, here's the things I'm going to do, and, like, everything's in between them are, like, cool, but it's, like, I have an overall, like, plan of action, things I want to, like, pursue wholeheartedly. Like,
and it bothers you if you're with a person who doesn't.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Because, like, you don't need to have all your shit together, don't get me wrong, that's part of the thing, too. Like, I'm not, like a saint or perfect by any means, but it's also just, like, it's hard to be with somebody and then have, like, 6 months them trying to figure out, like, what they're going to do or, like, what they want to do or, like, something new, you know?
So basically no ambition is a turn off
exactly
for you.
It. Yeah, let's go back to that J. Cole thing, you know, like the hat tricks and, like, having someone with one of you, like, who has a few goals, whether it's professional, like, artistic or otherwise. It's, like, have something that's other than just occasionally going out with your friends and, like, watching, like, TV or just, like, having some ambitions. Like, usually where I find some of those, like, women who are, like, type A or like I tend to date, you know, it's because like they have things going on in their lives, and sometimes that overlaps with being like a certain sternness or like, as I said just jokingly, you know, earlier, bitchy.
That's a good word to use. Sternness, yeah.
Unlike you, I'm not trying to alienate your female audience. Even though I said the word shit like at least 20 times earlier.
I am who I am, Jacob. You know, if they're gonna fuck with me, they're gonna fuck with me at this point. Yeah. That I like that word, sternness. That's a smooth, man. I like that. So I guess. Yeah, I guess I could see that, because you know how they tell you like, you should be careful of the people you surround yourself with, because you end up taking on those habits, or your ambitions are going to be at the same level, or maybe lack of, right? But it also kind of feels funny too. So what the fuck? I'm just going to base my friendships depending on how successful or how aspirational they are. But like, I do get, like, you know what they say, you do tend to mimic the people that are around you, right? So it's a weird, it's a weird like dichotomy. It's a weird balance, you know. It's like you want to have friends organically, but at the same time, you don't want to be fucking with people who are not going anywhere, don't have any ambitions, you know.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's the thing also. Like, I've been pretty fortunate. Like, my friends overall, like my friends outside of comedy, they're all doing things that are like that, like side hustles, like professionally, like they're like doing things that they want to do, and like they have goals and plans of actions, and they're working towards them, and like they're going through that struggle. And, like, same thing with comedy. Like Alex and I, like he has goals on his own outside of like what we're doing together too. You know, it's like just having like some sense of like purpose, like what you want to do. You know, like that's just it. Like it's all like I'm looking for in a friend is like, or even like somebody who I'm dating potentially is just like, just want to do something. Has to you want to like elevate yourself too.
I feel like if any girls are listening to this or watching this, they know exactly whether or not they're the right girl for you. You can hit him up, slide into his DMs,
Dude, I
ladies.
think also part of the problem is like relationships is like I'm just entirely like what you see is what you get. I think that might throw some people for a loop.
No,
like,
I think
with the
that's
certainty.
better though. I mean, like,
Oh yeah,
to me, I like having all your cards on the table in terms of like the kind of person you are. Obviously, you don't want to be on the first date just revealing all your fucking
oh hell no,
deepest,
dude! You hear all the
darkest shit.
skeletons in the closet.
Yeah, but you also don't want to hide who you are either, right? You don't want to pretend to be someone that you're not, especially if they're gonna be with us. Either they're gonna fuck with you or they don't.
right.
And that's kind of what. Look, I have no experience on the apps, obviously, because I never got to fuck with any of these things. But that's kind of what appeals to me about it, 'cause to a certain extent, is all the cards are on the table. Well, not all the cards, but a lot of them. At least, like, hey, we both know what we're doing here. We both know what we're getting
Not
into.
entirely sometimes.
No, still explain to me. I've never got to experience
Well,
these
like
things.
here's the thing. Like sometimes with the apps, like you can like.
Yeah, they're open. You guys,
Yeah,
say,
like, the thing with like angles is like a real thing. Like with some people, like with some girls, like it's just like I mean, you can get like kind of. I've gotten low-key kind of catfish before. I feel like in terms of like either A, personality, or like B, just like the way they look, you know, or just like two different things on its own. But it's like there's a level of mistrust there.
Okay.
You know, it's like it's sometimes like the lies are innocuous. Like I'm big on reading. Like at this point in my life, I understand why some people like don't have like televisions in their homes. You know, but like sometimes a lot of girls put in their profiles like, oh, like into reading books, and like it's always like I ask them like just like try to start a conversation like, what was the last book you read? And they go, Great Gatsby. It's like, we talking about like 11th grade or what? Like what's going on there? Or like sometimes the angles can be misleading, you know, on like the pictures.
They're
and
trying to project a certain image on themselves.
right. I
That's
actually went
not
out with a
true.
girl once for a couple months on like Tinder, and like I talked to her. I didn't ask her anything about books until like we got on a date, and I asked her like what books she was reading or what books she liked. She's like, I put a read on my profile. Like, it was a question to me that she put what she read on her profile. I'm like, it's like, yeah, that's why I'm asking you about like literature right now.
There you go, ladies. He's a deep man. He likes to read. What do you like to read?
So I just read earlier this summer. I read The Count of Monte Cristo.
So you're going for a few classics every now and
Classics is
then.
what I read. Like I have tattoo like on my arm. First like line from like David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. So like a lot of
Okay.
that stuff. But I also read like I'm a nerd, dude. I read Daredevil earlier this summer too, or like later this
Which
summer.
one? I mean, there's a lot of like historic arcs
so I
on
was
Daredevil.
reading some of the classic stuff. Frank Miller, Born Again.
The Frank Miller series.
I love the Mark Waid run too. That's just more of a lighthearted, but like also kind of like he has a good balance of like old school Daredevil, which is very lighthearted and campy, which is like people forget about Daredevil sometimes. It used to be ridiculous, chasing after Stiltman.
They all used to be ridiculous. To be fair, though,
But then it got dark and you know whatnot. And then, but recently I also read Kevin Smith's Guardian Devil run, which was
he had the whole run on the Marvel Knights, right? The series run. Yeah, I'm a big comic book guy too.
yeah.
That's right. And Daredevil is one of my guys. I tend to like be drawn more towards the street level heroes than like, you know, say like someone like a Superman who's just like beyond powerful. I like the street level guys because I feel like I can become them.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like it was a big goal of mine for the longest time to become Batman, dude.
Because that's the thing, like Batman on a certain level, like skill wise, like with like martial arts, it's attainable. Same thing with like Daredevil, a certain way, you know, like you can become acrobatic.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. That's what I like about it.
Like when I was doing wrestling, like we have to do gymnastics for warm ups. Like when I was like 13, I can do like a cartwheel to a round off and a handspring, you know?
There you go.
So it's like, you feel like on a certain level, like it's cool to have those aspirations because they actually do take you places on a certain level, you know?
They do. And the thing is, when Batman Begins came out, I was living in the Philippines at that time, and I really, at a certain point, was like, oh, I could pull this off in the Philippines. Like, Batman could totally exist here, you know, because there's a lot of crimes that are just like at knife point, you know, not a gun. So if I could create that kind of armor, I can, you know, get away easily on the rooftops. I was like, well, I just didn't have the money, but I was like, because I was already doing like all the knife trading and empty hand-to-hand combat. I was like, dude, this is my chance. And I was like, I'm gonna make it happen.
On a similar note, when that show Arrow first came out, I had the same idea. I was at San State, and I was like, they have an archery class here. That sounds interesting. I already know how to do a little bit of some stuff.
Yeah, dude, I mean the choreography on Arrow, it's beautiful. It's more like in the dance, you know, like kind of, you know, realm kind of thing, kind of like with the Matrix. But I mean, that's what I like.
Well, that show lost me after the third season. After like the first two were like you're talking about pretty good choreography. It was pretty gritty.
Yeah. They were great, and yeah, I just like most shows. You know, it's hard to keep the quality high, but no, I fucked with Arrow for the first 4 or 5 seasons, I think, and then Flash started becoming a better show than Arrow. Yeah. I like, oh, it amazed me how good. But then I kind of dropped off after season 4 too.
Flash. I was like the first 2 seasons I was on board. The first season was really good, and the second season was pretty good too. But after that, I was like, all right, you guys are doing the same shtick.
Yeah, it's just hard to keep up. You know, hard to keep that quality up. But God, how the hell did we get on this talking about? Oh, you know, back on to Daredevil, you know. But yeah, in terms of like comic books, I like to read. I'll read the big crossover events and everything. But my guys tend to be the street level. Like, what else do you read in terms of comics?
So I actually was just because I've been reading them for years, and I just got through this because of a Netflix show. But Sandman by Neil Gaiman, I just went through like the first 7 volumes of that.
Yeah, how do you like that?
It's good. Yeah. It's real good.
I feel like it's acquired taste because I think I've read the first 3. Because I heard it being hyped up for so many years, and I read it like it's good, but maybe it was just a little too hyped up in my brain, you know. Like, you know,
I think what sold me on it was like the grand mythos of like the whole like question of like, you know, ethereal beings and like things like that. Like, you know, like I like that trippy shit, to be honest with you. So
I like it too, man.
So like I like it's like my chill taste of like certain things is like weird stuff. Like Space Odyssey is a great film, you know, and like other things like Tree of Life, you know, with Hugh Jackman.
Never seen that.
That's a pretty good one. It's like a little one that's more abstract, kind of like art housey films. But it's like stuff like that, you know. So it's like Sandman kind of filled me in that way with like having these ethereal beings, and like to be honest with you, it feels like having gone through 7 volumes, I still got to read the other 3 because I'm right on the start of volume 7. It's like it's like he's not even the main character sometimes. It feels like it's always people around him are like in this vast world, and he just plays like a part or a presence in it. At least that's where I'm at so far. But like the first few volumes, he was definitely more involved. But like later on, the story kind of takes more of a back seat, and it fleshes out like mythology as a whole. Because at one point, spoiler in later volumes, like his wife, like, one time his ex-wife was one of the muses.
Oh yeah, no, I've got into that
like
part.
Calliope, and he has a son of the Greek mythology. It leads into directly actually what is Greek mythology, Orpheus. You know, so it's like.
No, I love all that. So I love anything mythology. I mean, you played God of War?
Yeah.
Oh my God, goodness! I mean, the first 3 were fantastic, but the last one on the PS4, I mean, that's as close to a perfect game as you can get.
Dude, I'm excited for my next one to come out too, as well.
Yeah, but I love that it's, you know, it's all based in mythology. It lives in that world.
Exactly.
I mean, that's why I'm into Thor, and I'm into Thor in terms of comic books because, you know, I love the Greek mythology. I love that world. You know, I don't know what it is about it. That's why I really love Lord of the Rings. Anything that's like mythology.
I've been meaning to read Lord of the Rings for a while.
Yeah.
I went back and I kind of discovered it in the last few years during the pandemic. I would just do my like day job stuff and I have like the extended edition of the Lord of the Rings in the background.
Yeah.
So I went through like the trilogy and I was like, got more appreciation for it as I'd aged.
Yeah. Did you ever go into like Silmarillion and all those other ones?
I understand some of like the things that he was trying to do from like being on like the Lord of the Rings subreddit. Just curiosity. So right now I'm actually looking to purchase like all of them like in a nice leather bound set and just power through them, dude.
Yeah. No, because I got deep into Lord of the Rings. You know, I had the 3 books. You know, I read all the annexes. You know, on the back of the books. I read Silmarillion a bunch of times. I really, at one point, like the mythology was all up in here. Like And then, I went so far as getting a book of Elvish languages.
Dude, it makes you feel better. Like, I understand that one, Gandalf is not really a wizard. He's like an angel, more or less.
Yeah, he's a Maiar. So,
Yeah.
What's they call it? He's starry, right?
And when he
kinda
died as
spirit.
Gandalf the Grey, he actually got promoted, which is why he got to come back as Gandalf the White.
he's
I
more
get
like-
it.
yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
I don't ask those questions. I understand the
Yeah.
mythos.
Yeah, like him and Balrogs. They're both like Maiars as the Balrogs. Anyone who knows more Lord of the Rings, I'll say, okay, it's been a while since I kept up, so I could be wrong here. That's gonna get the hate of the comments, but yeah, the wizards, and Balrogs, they're essentially like on the same hierarchy, the same level. They're both Maiars. Just one went dark, and the other was more from Valinor. There's some light, even though Saruman went on the other. I'm going
I know. It's fine. I'm interested. I don't know who they are. It's fine. But I get it, dude. Because I made the mistake of diving really hard into Song of Ice and Fire for everybody else. The Game of Thrones.
So did I. Yeah.
So I went through all of the books.
What did you think of those books?
Love them.
Really?
I love book Jon Snow way more than TV Jon Snow. I like Kit Harington's acting and portrayal of the character, but book Jon Snow is such a conniving motherfucker.
Yeah.
And he's willing to get down in a fight, but also one thing that he didn't do in the show is engage in the political machinations. The whole subplot with Val and the wildling child, and that, not to get too into the weeds there, but that's good, I like that. And then
he did it on purpose.
yes, exactly. So there's a whole aspect of that character that's not there. Plus, I'm pissed. I want the Winds of Winter to come out already, so I can see what happens with this fucking Northern conspiracy and see what Lord Waymar Mandalay's doing over there.
Yeah. I have to say, I remember before the show ever came out, there was a lot of hype about the books of Song, Ice, and Fire, and I read them. I ordered all 4 at once, and I gotta say, it wasn't my cup of tea. I mean, I had them. I had to read them. I had them all already, but the only what got to me is just. It was too gray at a certain point, It's at a certain point, I need some form of consistency. I don't want it's just a little bit too middle of the road with everything. And and there's just so many. There was 60 fucking characters.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot to keep track of.
There's a lot to keep track. So it's it went a little too far in that direction for me personally.
Yeah.
I need to be able to keep a hold of the narrative, because book 3 is just all about the North, book 4 is all about the South, right?
I think you described George's plan problem with writing the entire series is that he has too many moving pieces everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's trying to bring them in. One of the things I like, so I read The Count of Monte Cristo, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because in that book, every little plot detail comes in and plays a role into the grand overarching plot, and nothing is wasted in that book.
Yeah.
Right? And I think George, on a much grander scale, was trying to employ, the trope of Chekhov's gun. You to introduce a gun in Act 1, it better get used in Act 3.
Exactly.
But he's put so many things that have to pay out now on such grandiose ways. Even the main themes of the show have hit in the book in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
But in the book, there are so many subplots. Dorne in the entire book is this whole thing going on that's never even dressed in the show. And he's got to make things pay out there, but later, playing the end game and somehow tie back to the main characters people know from the show, like Jon Snow or Cersei or Jaime Lannister, and then the Stark girls or anything else like that, So it's it's all got to come back. But also, he made shit real weird. In the books, the youngest Stark child's off on an island somewhere where there's unicorns.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I think you described it perfectly. I just found myself just thinking, when is something going to happen? It's when I'm reading these books, you got so many things going on, but there's no payoff at any point,
It's my frustration as the reader.
Yeah. It's when is something, that's why I like the series better, because people complained about the same thing. When is something going to happen? It's you have no idea what the books are like. It's even worse. Like that first season of Game of Thrones, a lot happened,
Oh, yeah, there's a lot out of that book that's still in there,
Yeah, so that's why I appreciated the series, but definitely as the series went on, it started becoming more like the book, where it's when's something gonna fucking happen?
Yeah.
It's what did you think of this finale, the series finale?
I wouldn't have minded it so much had the road to getting there make sense, It's with some things, but the outcomes of the story don't bug me as much as the plot as the path to get there.
So what was your problem with the path to get there?
It's just Bran not really. First of all, Bran not being around for a whole season is a whole issue, right?
Okay.
But also the development of his character to getting there, and just some logical leaps. why, like, fucking, like, the thing that gets me to death, which still, like, if you think about it, is like Tyrion saying, well, who has a better story than Bran? That's why he should be king. Like, most of the people who were sitting around that area had better stories, you know, Arya, Sansa, Brienne, shit. Even, like, their uncle that was kept in a jail cell for most of the series probably had a better story than Bran just doing, like, mushrooms with the tree wizard, you know?
Yeah, you know, I never thought about that. That's a very good point. That was a very weak moment there.
Yeah.
Like that's definitely very much a leap of faith moment.
And then part of my thing too is like I think the creators of the show or showrunners mistook subversion for expectations with poor writing or like a forceful writing, because like the whole Arya started killing the Night King thing. That's not subverting expectations, because if you pay out some things in stories, I feel like you're obliged in certain ways to pay it out to your viewer or your reader, right? And like sure, if it can be a left-hand turn, like, okay, Jon Snow fights him, whatever, and maybe Jon Snow actually doesn't live past that battle. That could be subverting the expectations of the hero winning, you know, or whatever it may be. Like, the victory coming at a cost. But to have something that doesn't come out or play out plot-wise, that was never there to begin with, that kind of irks me. It's like, on the same way, like, it's just structural storytelling that gets me there.
You know, probably the biggest payoff for me in that series, I can't remember what season it was, but it was the Battle of the Bastards.
That's fucking awesome still.
Oh, that felt so good.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so satisfying. Like, I was just so happy. It's like, yeah, that's what makes the series different from the books. Yeah, I don't think you have a moment like that. Like, I mean, like,
I'm waiting for that moment to happen in the books.
Yeah, I
it's
know,
like
but
all the pieces are leading up to that right now.
Because they did such a great job building up to that moment too, and then they actually paid it off, and it's like, oh my God, it was so sweet. I was like, I was so satisfied with that.
Yeah, and like going back to that moment, like the difference between that, like even leading up to these events, is like in the book, it's like they're right on the cusp of that supposed to be happening. Like Jon Snow gets what's called the pink letter from Ramsay Bolton. We have your sister, she's kidnapped or whatever, right? And then he actually says fuck it to the Night's Watch in the book, and he's ready to leave. And that's when he gets like stabbed by his like the other guys who don't like what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you know like DB Weiss and David Benioff we're in a tough position because they were getting they got ahead of the books already.
Right.
You know, this is like because George R. Martin's fucking takes forever.
But here's the thing: like HBO was going to give them like as many seasons, as much money as they wanted, and George was like on record like saying do like 12 or 13 seasons of these things. So like they got Star Wars money, and then that didn't pan out for them because like they got dropped by Disney because of such a shit job they did to close out Game of Thrones.
But you know what? I think it's a good thing. You know, like I don't mind when shows don't go like 80s and 90s. I actually like it when they're a little bit shorter because they tend to be more higher quality.
Yeah, they focus on where they want to go. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, because there's such a thing. It tends to happen with all American like series is they just try to milk it for as long as they can, and the show really just starts
Get that
dropping
money,
off.
baby.
Yeah, which I get it. If it's a business, you know, you can't blame them. But there's always going to be a good idea out there. You can do other great shows. I mean, this is a guy talking from, you know, a YouTube podcast.
This is two like couch coaches here for like show running, dude.
Exactly right. Yeah.
You know, I'm just saying, as a viewer, I always would like to have more of a structure, like for us to get to the end result. Like, I'm fine with them doing like as many scenes as they did. It's just like, could we have just actually made this like make sense plot wise and not required like respect your audience's intelligence, you know?
Yeah. Are you excited about the prequel they're doing with
I read that book, and like I know how like most of those events play out from like the reading. You know, maybe they'll still add stuff or do so differently. I don't know, but
just from the trailer, I mean,
I'll get into it. I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm a Raiders fan.
No, I'm the same way with comic book movies. I don't care how bad it is. I'm going to see it in the theater.
Yeah, dude. I mean, one of my favorite comic movies as a kid was Blade Trinity. That's fucking terrible, dude.
That was such a disappointment.
But it's a great guilty pleasure film, dude. It's one of those FX movies you put on, you got nothing to do on a Sunday. It's like, shit, there it is.
Well, you know what? Ryan Reynolds killed it in that movie. Man.
He has my favorite lines in that movie. Fuck me. Fuck me sideways.
Yeah. No, when he was captured by the vampires and he said, "Oh, I have a secret to tell you. I just farted. I had a garlic burrito earlier." But it's like he fucking killed it in that movie. Did you hear about those crazy stories about how Wesley Snipes was being super difficult during the shoot of that movie?
I can imagine. He doesn't seem like a good guy to work with.
I don't know, but it's like I mean, I don't know. Like the egos just get to these guys at a certain point because it seems like he was a cool guy at. You know, early on, and then by Blade Trinity, apparently he was just a complete fucking asshole that he couldn't work with.
Do you think he was Blade at that point?
I think he might have been Method, where he doesn't go out of character. He just stays as Blade the whole time, which is It's just really bizarre, you know. But they are remaking Blade with Mahershala Ali. I don't know if
He's
I'm
a
saying
great
his name.
actor. I'm
Yeah,
excited
he's
for that, dude.
fantastic. I think that's a great casting right there. But no, yeah, I'll see any. I mean, I'll see any of those comic book movies. Except I don't think I'm gonna see Black Adam, man. I can't do it.
Can't.
I can't, man. Just The Rock being The Rock. Is
Oh
just,
yeah, he can't be the bad guy ever, really. You know.
no, it's just like it's literally okay. So the story of Black Adam is he used to be a slave, right? And he got these powers, but then when he was a slave, he was jacked as shit. You what the fuck? He was like, where is he getting all?
Conan was a slave and he was jacked
I
as shit.
know. It's like, and then he speaks with a perfect American accent. He's like, it's just literally The Rock being The Rock.
Yeah,
man.
I'm not like super into Black Adam, but I understand like he's supposed to be like from like a Mesopotamian society, right? Middle Eastern now.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, you know,
This is like, but then again, they have Pierce Brosnan being Doctor Fate. So it's like
pretty
that.
cool like casting,
I
dude.
know, I know,
That's
so
actually a pretty good one.
I know, so that might be enough to like, fuck it, I'll see it, but because I'm a big comic book nerd, man, and so
Yeah.
to see The Rock get cast, that's what's wrong with DC, right? Is the DC movies, they're just always gonna go for the money grab. They're not about making a good film out of it. They're just gonna go for the money grab, right?
Yeah.
That's why they went to Batman v Superman so quickly. That's why they went to Justice League so quickly, because they saw Marvel killing it with Avengers and Civil War, and they just wanted to skip all the steps they
Right.
took to get to that and just jump right to it. That's why Justice League was a flop, right? Instead of just focusing on let's do single movies for each character first, make those good, and let's build up to that.
Yeah,
point,
the irony is that's exactly what they were doing for like their animated film universe.
Yeah, the animated
Their movies
movies
are
way
are
better
still
than Marvel. Yeah.
really freaking good.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's a point because like if you have HBO Max, you can go back and you can basically watch all their animated
Yeah.
films, and like, this cinematic universe that actually culminates into like this whole other thing that resets itself later on. Like,
Yeah.
it actually was done really well.
Yeah.
Like, just I think the last one we did was Justice League Dark, whatever. And one of my favorites in there is Constantine. So it's like, you know, it's good to see him be at like the lead of something there, but it's also just like that was executed very well. But it's like you guys don't even put the same effort into doing like the live action
that's
shit.
the thing. I was like, DC does well with their animated properties, but usually their live action shit. And then it's the other way with Marvel. They do well with their live action stuff, and usually their animated stuff is really more geared towards little kids. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just not as good. Well, I'm glad I found someone I can really geek out with
Oh,
about
dude,
this
anytime.
stuff.
Yeah, man. I recently rediscovered Comicology on Amazon, so I just paid with the $5 subscription. I'm just trying to catch back up on some stuff. Like, you mentioned being a Thor guy earlier, and one of the runs I've never read, but kind of always meant to get into was the Jason Aaron Thor run.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. That's a
so
good
I hear.
Yeah, and it's that the because I've read so many of them. That point is that the God of Thunder one, where the three different timelines.
Yeah, he does.
coalesce?
Well, he does that, and he also did the original Thor, Jane Foster Thor line too,
Yeah,
right?
that one, I just recently read that last year. Because at first I was turned off by it, the whole thing, and then when I read the whole thing, it's good.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I couldn't believe how good it was, and the way they ended it. Oh my god,
That's the thing too. Like some comic writers are just like there are some shit ones out there, but there are phenomenal ones. Like like Scott Snyder on his work on Batman.
Yeah, Scott Snyder's great.
Amazing. You know,
Yeah.
he gets some gruff for it. Dan Slott's got some pretty good hit or miss stories.
Yeah, I never Dan Slott. Yeah, it's pretty hit and miss. I like Matt Fraction a lot.
Matt Fraction's pretty good.
Yeah, Kieran Gillen. I like him.
Mark Waid.
Yeah, Mark Wade's a good one. Fucking Greg Rucka.
Tyrion. What's his name?
Oh yeah, James Tynion.
James Tyrion.
Yeah, James Tyrion. Yeah. No, that's.
There's also the guy who did a lot of the stuff that Jonathan Hickman. Who did all the stuff basically that like the last two Avengers movies were based off of.
Yeah. Mark Millar is really good. Did you ever watch Invincible on Amazon?
I did. Yeah.
I just recently watched it. That was so good. I enjoyed that a lot.
You wouldn't like it. Kind of starts lighthearted, but the more you get you into the more like it gets like violent, and you're just like, oh shit.
Well, even like the art style is like it really throws you off because the art style looks very kind of lighthearted and almost campy, right?
Yeah.
But it is not that. There's definitely like funny moments in it, but oh man, the things the amount of violence and the things they show you in there, it's
And like the thing gets hard to reconcile too, like especially with like the way J.K. Simmons acts so well is like his like very dad-like persona in the beginning of the series, and then a sharp turn just the fucking blatant psychopath, you know?
Yeah, no, that's good. Did you ever read the comics of that one?
That's the thing. I started reading the first volume of Invincible, but I never really got through the rest of it. I don't know why. I think I just like start reading and stop putting it down. Like I can go back to it, obviously.
Well, the thing is, it's just when it comes to comics, there's just so much to read. You know, I used to keep up, and I had like maybe 7 titles of what I tried to keep up with. You know, I would try to keep up with Batman, Detective Comics, Thor, Iron Man, Wonder Woman. I would a lot of the Batman universe, Red Hood, Nightwing. I really fuck with Batman.
Yeah,
the
Batman's
Batman
been great for
universe.
years though. Like he's the benefit of having like James
Like,
Tynion work on it and Scott
he
Snyder.
attracts a lot of the good writers.
Zero Year was great.
Ooh, fantastic. Oh my! Did you ever read the Eternal Batman arc?
No, I did not.
Ooh, that's really good too. It's about like 52 issues. I can't remember who wrote it. It was who was one of the main stable Batman writers, but that was really good.
Yeah.
As well as one of those like one-off series. I'm not sure if it's tied to canon at all, but that was amazing, dude. Yeah, I mean, dude, we're at an hour 14. Already, I think we definitely dried up all the pussy the past 30 minutes.
We went straight into nerd conversation. There's like 3 dudes listening. He's like going, oh yeah, well, these guys.
So I mean, what's your favorite comic book movie so far? Like, you know, it's hard to name one. Let's name 3.
If I had to go,
let's name 3.
Yeah, I'm going to bar the Marvel Universe stuff that's been coming out since like the Iron Man stuff. I think a lot of that's great. My best friend and I go see all his movies together religiously, and we have since the Avengers movie. But if I had to go like outside of just those, I'd probably go like the seminal ones for me, in no specific order, are Constantine with Keanu Reeves.
Really? You really love that character, huh?
That was my introduction to him, actually.
Okay.
So like I got to that, I read Dangerous Habits and everything else, and I have like the last issue of the original Hellblazer run.
Actually, that makes sense because you know you like mythology, you like the mythos and all that, and definitely you get that with Hellblazer.
And I love that he's not like one of these punch 'em up superheroes too. It's always calm and outsmart you.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I love about Constantine a whole lot. Daredevil, Ben Affleck.
Oh my God, you're naming like the movies that most people have low on their list.
Here's the thing too, it's like those were the ones I grew up with and didn't have a choice, you know?
But you know what? I will say this about the Daredevil Ben Affleck movie. To me, they got his fight style more correct in that than they do in the Daredevil series on Netflix.
He's more kicker, like
yeah,
that kind
because
of thing,
like in Netflix, the one thing that bothers me about that series is he's way too boxing based. I understand his dad was a boxer,
right?
But literally, like 90% of his fight style is just boxing.
Yeah,
it's
you read with any of his fights with Bullseye, like in like Guardian Devil Run, he's mostly kicking.
Yeah, and he's way more acrobatic than that, right? So that's why I feel like, at least with the movie,
they tried it and it didn't work out.
Yeah, but at least they were trying to be more like true to what his fighting style was.
You know, and that movie, like, it may not be the greatest, like the whole like.
Yeah, definitely not the greatest.
But I think Michael Clark Duncan did a great job as Wilson Fisk.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's arguable too.
I mean, John Favreau was funny in that movie. I feel like now I know I've seen Swingers at an older age. He's just doing the same thing.
Okay, so you're off to a great start. Constantine, Ben Affleck, Daredevil. Let's go 5.
Spider-Man 2.
Okay, there you go. You got me back.
That's probably still a comic movie.
Yeah,
for
you got me back. That's fucking an awesome movie. Yeah,
like I think that's, as far as comic films go, that's probably the hardest one to top. Especially like, because I think you nail a Spider-Man mythos to a T. Like the Peter Parker look, like the struggle with like balancing his personal life responsibility and like everything else, you know, and then like having these close relationships that go estranged, like, you know, like the Osborn in the first movie, right? But also like that really close tie you have with like him and Molina as like Doc Ock, you know? And Doc Ock's got great history in the comics with Spidey too.
Yeah.
Like that's way before Superior Spider-Man. But like the fact that he at one point married Aunt May is but there's that, so that's verse 3, right?
Yeah, okay, and last 2.
Last 2, I think I'd have to go with, let's see. I'm trying to think that last 2 there. Well, Dark Knight, okay, so Dark Knight for sure is up there.
Yeah.
Like that just changed the game a whole lot in terms of like how like the movies could be received for like comic movies. That has to be up there like a tentpole film, I feel like.
All right, I'm falling back in love with you now. Here we go.
And I think this like fifth one that's hard is I'm trying to not go with such the modern branch of like the Marvel films, you know?
Why not?
Because I feel like everybody likes them for the most part, and it's like
no, they definitely have some hits, some misses in there.
Movies, and I think one of the movies I loved as a kid, and still X2, X-Men United.
That's a good one, yeah.
And I think you know, there's a lot done right about that just paid off so poorly in the other films, you know? Like they know a lot about Wolverine's origin story, even some of the stuff with like, you know, Lady Deathstrike's in there. It's pretty cool, like the small stuff, you know? And like that whole like the whole discourse they have with like Iceman and like you know, Pyro, like it's good, like even for what it is, that like for that whole genre of filmmaking at the time.
Yeah, that's your last three choices were great.
I have to go with those. Like those are guilty pleasure. I had no choice but to live with those as some of those kids. You know, like there are options now. Before you had like those 8 movies and like Fantastic Four.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with your last three, but I think for me, my top 5, definitely Dark Knight. Even though I love Batman Begins because it set everything off in terms of that, right? That was a clear like turning point. Like, oh, these could be like award-winning like level movies, right? But definitely, I think Dark Knight was Chris Nolan's magnum opus. I mean, I remember when I watched that movie, I was never sitting down on the back of my seat. I was just sitting up like this the whole time. I was like, I couldn't believe how great it was. Like when he was interrogating Sal Maroni, right? He was holding him up, and he just let him go and let him drop. I was like, oh, they fucking nailed it. That's absolutely what you did. Just like let him break his fucking legs.
Yeah,
and
you got straight out of year 1.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. I was so happy with that movie. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would have to go with X-Men Days of Future Past over X-Men First Class. Days of Future Past.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, man.
I think Batman and Logan are probably the last 2 good X-Men movies.
Yeah, they did that so well. I like everything from that soundtrack, the way they used that song, first time ever I saw. You know how they looped that from when he first woke up back in the 70s, and then when he woke up again at the end of the movie. It's just, I love it when they do things like that, because they did that with Batman Begins too. They used that same song when Bruce's dad was, with the stethoscope and feeling his heart. They had this same piano song, and then when the mansion burns down at the end, but he finds that stethoscope, and all of a sudden you hear that song again, and it takes you back. Because I'm a filmmaker, right? I'm a videographer. It's like, I love that.
Also going back to like the whole like Game of Thrones thing is like, where's like sometimes simplicity is best. You don't need to subvert your expectations to make them satisfied. Just like bookend things. Like there's a reason why some of these things work or have worked for so long.
It's like it's like what they said in The Dark Knight. In that scene where his whole surveillance system, when Morgan Freeman types in the code, right, and it's blowing up, and they're talking about sometimes you need to reward people, for their patience and effort. You need to give them what they're expecting, what they deserve. And that's exactly how I feel about that. And that's what I guess where Game of Thrones is, just the books especially, is just like, that's not paying off. Yeah, so those are my first 2. You know what? Yeah, I gotta give it to Spider-Man 2 as well. Like you said, they just nailed Spider-Man in every single way possible, right? Not just, basically, because Spider-Man, the what people like about Spider is he's the superhero who struggles to try to have a life.
Right.
Right, and they depicted it perfectly there. Especially that last scene where MJ finally finds out, he's Spider-Man. Oh, that's why, you and I can never be. And then he lets her down on the web. She goes with her fiance. Then you see him just crawling and watching from far away. You see him like watching MJ, and then the music comes in, and that's just the life of Spider-Man. He has to give that up, right? He'll save the day, but he'll never get the girl, kind of thing. And they also nailed his fighting style and his acrobatics in that movie. That's when he first really started moving like Spider-Man, in my opinion, because they only got the tip of the iceberg.
He was a little stiff in the first one.
Yeah, in the first one, right? And then but that's what Sam Raimi said in the second one. He really wanted to like show how Spider-Man can move, and they nailed it, in my opinion. So that's 3. You know what? I gotta go with Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that's probably, as an espionage movie masquerading as a superhero movie.
Yeah, that movie was fantastic.
That's
man.
actually the one MCU movie I watch the most.
Yeah.
Like I think Endgame and like other ones are pretty good.
Yeah.
You're wrong, but like that movie on its own, just like you take out Captain America, you just put Chris Evans in there, and you take away it being Hydra or Shield, whatever. It's just an old school espionage thriller.
Yeah. No, that's that's one of those that I'll just watch again and again. I like to take some time, because I don't want to ever get jaded watching it. I want it to really still give me that same excitement. So I'll give it a good 8 months before I watch it again. But I will watch it again, at some point. And the last one, God, that's a tough one, man. That's without going. Ooh. Because I could easily give it to any, like, a Marvel movie, but anything that like blew me away. God, I'm trying to see if I can give it back to DC somehow for like a live action movie, because the first Wonder Woman movie was actually I enjoyed a lot, but it's kind of slim pickings when it comes to those DC movies in terms of like
Yeah, dude, Constantine actually stands pretty high on that list.
yeah. If we have to be honest, yeah, Constantine is not that bad. Looking back on it, yeah, I guess I would have to go back to Marvel and just. You know what? I'm gonna have to give it to Spider-Man: No Way Home, just because like they fulfilled my wet dream. They fulfilled my wet dream. You know, having all three of the Spider-Man come in there like that. And that's something I thought would never be possible, and they made it work. You know, I was like I was like a little child watching this. I couldn't believe this. They're doing it.
Yeah, no, that was excellent. Like Toby coming back was probably the best part of the movie for me.
Yeah, right.
Because. Yeah, as I was a kid when that first Spy movie came out. I was like in third grade when the first one.
Yeah, I think I almost was a kid, but I felt like a little kid.
I just felt like I was like, back to the movie theater again, like being like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, because I never thought something like that would be possible.
Right.
You know? The fact that they pulled it off, and I knew what's his name, the other guy. What's the other Spider-Man's name?
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, I knew he was in it. I had no idea about Tobey Maguire. So when he came on screen. I got rock hard, dude. I couldn't believe it. It was like, they're actually doing it. It's like, God, I kind of want to, no, I'd have to give it to them because I was going to say Endgame, but the thing with Endgame is, like, tonally, it was so different, right? That was definitely a slow build. There was a big payoff, but man, was that a slow build getting to that big payoff. But man, when Captain America finally got
says the line,
Thor, no, not the line, but when he got Thor's hammer Mjolnir.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God! I think I actually went in the theater. I could have like they fucking paid that off. And it's like, oh, thank you so much, Marvel.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I can't believe how long we've been nerding out.
Yeah, we've been nerding out for a while. If I may throw one more up there as an honorable mention, the first Hellboy film.
Which that was good. I never saw I never saw 2, then I never saw the reboot with the dude from Stranger Things.
2 was good, but I think the first one's just pretty good.
That's solid.
Especially considering the era it came out in,
That's solid. That's definitely solid. Ron Perlman was fucking perfect
Guillermo del
casting.
Toro is just a fantastic filmmaker all the way through.
Yeah, did he? I don't think he did the second one.
He did. They just never gave him a third one. And they rebooted it with that guy from Stranger Things, but I never saw that one.
Yeah, oh man. Yeah, Hellboy was solid too. My honorable mention would be first Iron Man.
Yeah.
Obviously, that set it off for the Marvel Universe. Civil War, definitely. But you know what? If we're going to go into animated properties, I think Batman Under the Red Hood.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Especially
how much they encapsulate the Killing Joke and just like, or no, not the Killing Joke, but Jason Todd being, crippled there.
Well, I mean, what they did with fucking The Dark Knight Returns, how they pulled that off.
I thought I'd love to see it happen like in a live action adaptation would be Red Hood. That'd be great.
Yeah, Red Hood. That's a great character, man.
But even the other one, what was the Mask of the Phantasm?
Oh, you're going old school. Yeah, that was a good one, dude.
I had that on VHS as a kid.
Dude, Beyond the Batman. You ever watch that one?
Batman Beyond?
No. There's one called I don't know if it's called Beyond the Batman. It's actually a Batman Beyond like hour and a half movie. It's the one where
with the Joker?
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Yeah, I seen that.
Oh, that's
Mark Hamill comes back.
You gotta put that up there, dude. That's a great story.
Go back. Those animated films from DC are great. It's everything else we've done live action has been like hit and miss.
Oh my God, that's a great one.
Because like you point out, you have those Nolan like Dark Knight movies, right? I mean, after that, it's kind of like slim pickings on what you guys actually like a good like DC comic movie.
Yeah. All right, we're at an hour 27 minutes.
Yeah, now we've just been nerding for most of this.
Man, we can do that all day. Let's wrap this up, Jacob. So obviously, where can people find out more about your stand-up dates?
Jacob Contreras on Instagram. Just my name, JACOBCONTRERAS, and then just Facebook. So yeah, just that. I'd be posting up just things for like probably just Branham Lounge, mine, Alex's room, and any other shows that have coming up. I get them. They happen sporadically. You know how this goes.
Yeah. So it's just Jacob Contreras on both. All right, well, good for you, man. You were able to log both in. All right, dude. Thanks for coming, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mike.
Yeah. All right. Hey guys, so thanks for tuning into the podcast, and a big thanks again to the fine folks at Sonity for letting us record the podcast here and for hooking us up with their delicious boba milk tea drinks. My wife Krista and I review boba milk tea spots all over the Bay Area. Believe me when I say that Sonity is definitely one of the best boba milk tea shops around. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at SAN as in Nancy, A dot, and as in Nancy again, A19, that's sana.na19 on Instagram. And if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, make sure to hit that follow/subscribe button and make sure to give us a 5-star rating to give us some algorithm love. Okay? Thanks for listening.